Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today we're going to take you along while I make some potting soil. Last year I made my own potting soil and things went really well. This year I tried to reuse potting soil and then brought some of my pots outside, then brought them back inside, got infestations of bugs because of that. Then I tried to bake the potting soil to get rid of fungus gnats and get rid of the bugs, and totally destroyed the structure of my potting soil. And then nothing grew. So now I've got seeds started again, there's some seeds ready to transplant, and it's time to make new potting soil. Now I'm going to make it the same way as I did last year, and I'll take you along with me and show you how I did that. And then I'm going to use some of it in a little winter sowing trial. Now I tried winter sowing last year and it was a total flop. I think it was because I stuck them on a table outside rather than putting them on the ground, and they dried out too much. So we're going to try it again and see how it works, and we're going to try to sow narrow leaf milkweed. But before we get to the winter sowing, let's take you out to my deep dark dungeon of a garage and start making some potting soil. So we are in the deep dark hole of my garage, and we're going to be making potting soil in my wheelbarrow. And we've got to make a lot because I do pot up a lot of plants indoors. And it's time to start growing all my seeds. Now this is January. I am doing this, it is actually a little bit early. I've started my onions, but this is going to be to start some winter sowing of some milkweed seeds. So I start out with coconut coir. This I found online, and you can Google it on Amazon and find any amount that you want. The big block that I had fills half of a wheelbarrow, but I also want to add compost. So I added a bag of the Espoma Land and Sea compost. This is my first time trying this. It's a little bit wet. I think it's dried out a little bit more. But what I did to try and kill some of the fungus gnats, I filled a 5-gallon bucket a quarter of the way and then poured boiling water all over it. And I really soaked it with the boiling water. I've tried the boiling water method in the past, but I filled up the bucket, 3/4 of the way full and poured boiling water over it. And I think that was just too little water to kill the fungus gnats. But I'm hoping this worked. We're in the fungus gnat battle, trying to figure out the best way to work it. I was thinking about cooking the soil, but I just really don't want to take the chance of destroying the structure of the soil like I did last time. I did bake soil in the past and nothing would grow in it after I baked it. I only took it up to 180 degrees for an hour, but who knows? It just didn't work. So I'm going to mix this beautiful coconut coir with 1 bag of Land and Sea compost, but that's not it. This makes a really good mix, but it does not have the drainage that we need, so we've got to add some perlite. Now you can add perlite or pumice. I do have some pumice, but it's really actually a very coarse pumice. Let me show you a handful of it. You can see the difference in size. This is the perlite and this is the pumice. Now I know you can get smaller sized pumice, but this is what I have. This right here is really good for larger plants, and I think this would be better for the seedlings. I ordered the pumice online and it came in a large box. Now I'm going to put on a mask because this perlite really flies all over the place and you really don't want perlite in your lungs. But we're going to add almost 1/3 compost, 1/3 coconut coir, and 1/3 perlite. Now, as I said, I got the coconut coir on Amazon. I got the Land and Sea compost on Amazon, but you can actually go to Home Depot or any garden center and get your perlite. So let's mix that and see how it looks and see if we need more perlite. So we got this mix the best that we can. Let's kind of compare it with. So this is ProMix BX, which is a really excellent potting soil, but it's quite expensive. I got it in a big, huge bale, but I've got so many plants that I've got to use potting soil with, I wanted to make my own. But if you look at it, the ratio of perlite and compost and coconut coir is quite good. Now, what I'm also going to add, the compost should be absolutely fine for fertility, but I'm going to add a handful of worm castings. Now this isn't necessary, but I'm just going to do it anyway, just to give it a little extra fertility. And then a little bit of organic slow release fertilizer. Now you need to be careful with worm castings. One thing that I've noticed is they are very, very, very fine. Look how fine that texture is. If you use too much of them, they do tend to float to the top and kind of create a crust, which isn't very pleasant to work with in containers. Now I'm going to toss in a few handfuls of plant tone, then we'll stir that in and we should be done. So now we have a high quality, pre-moistened plant mix that is going to work beautifully for whatever I want to do. Now I will still use seed starting mix to start most seeds, but I think this is going to work well for my one winter sowing jug. So this is the one jug that I'm going to use for winter sowing. We're going to try winter sowing narrow leaf milkweed in this and see how it works. So there we go. So now we have our container all ready to plant the seeds. I've removed the lid so that we can have moisture come in. And we're going to scatter the seeds thinly over the top of the soil. So from what I've heard about milkweed, it needs light to germinate. So we're not going to bury those very deeply. So we're just going to cover them up just a little bit, make sure they have enough light to germinate, and then we're going to add a label with my garden marker. So there we have it, narrow leaf milkweed. Then we're going to tape our container shut with duct tape. Now it took me a couple of times to get this right. It's a little more difficult to tape than you would think. And now all we need to do is label it. Now the last thing that I need to do is make sure that I get some water on it. The potting soil was pre-moistened, but I want to make sure that it is well watered before I put it outside. Then we're going to take it out and put it next to my planting bed and see how it does. I've done this in the past and I've failed, so we're going to see if this one succeeds. So I'm glad to get another project done. Hopefully that winter sowing will work. I'll keep you updated on it. Now for the narrow leaf milkweed, I'm going to try several different ways of starting it. I've never tried starting milkweed before, so this is new to me. If you have any suggestions for me, I'd love you to put them in the comments below. But we're going to try the winter sowing method. We're also going to try just sprinkling a few of the seeds outside and see if they're able to grow just by being sprinkled on the ground. This is January. It might be a little bit late to do that. I've heard that you need to put them outside in the fall to have them work. So we're just going to try it and see. It's not going to hurt. And then we're going to try cold stratifying the seeds in the refrigerator. Now when I say cold stratify, that just means they need a certain amount of time under a certain temperature. I think it's like 40 degrees. So the refrigerator generally works, and from what I've read, they need about 2 weeks to stratify in the refrigerator. And then I'll try starting them indoors under lights. So we'll see which of those methods work, if any of them, for the milkweed. Like I said, I'd love to hear your recommendations down below. Now hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If it has been helpful to you, I would love it if you liked, subscribed, shared it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.